Welcome everybody. This is SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Special Interest Group. It is the bi-weekly sync. It is May 21st, 2020, and today we will actually have quite busy community call as well. So obviously the build is ongoing, but at the same time we didn't want to cancel the community calls because we want to have this consistency is really the key. So we want to keep on executing, and then you know that hey, every single Thursday at a certain time frame there is the community call, and if you have a chance to join, you can join. If you don't, then you can check the recording afterwards from our YouTube channel. Now, today, like mentioned, we have quite a busy schedule as well. I'm not going to spend too much time on the build announcements, but I'm going to really concentrate and deep dive, well, only focus on the SharePoint Framework specific topics. If there's any questions on the build, other build announcements on other areas, we can actually potentially have a chat using the chat window, which should be working for everybody. So like I said, we're going to start with an update on SharePoint Framework. I have a few slides on the announcements, a few other things to announce as well, because I'm going to talk about those things. There's a long weekend coming, so it's good to get some good news from our side as well. And also covering some of the latest announcements from build around SharePoint Framework. So only on SharePoint Framework, we can touch other things as well on that section, but I do have a quick demo there as well, which is super exciting. And then we're going to go a quick update on the PnP JS, Office 365 CLI, SPFx Reusable Controls, and PnP Generator, what's happening within those projects. And there are massive amount of movements in all of them within the past 2 weeks, but it's good to have that quick check on those and what they are if you're not familiar with them. If you join on this course and watch the videos, you certainly are aware what they are. Hugo is going to then quickly mention all of the new community samples, so thank you again. We have new samples available in our repos and in our galleries. And then we had two super cool demos actually. We have a machine translation extension from Robin Acton, Delaware Consulting, if I remember correctly. And then a really cool thing, application extension, which you can put on a page and then translates the page using the Bing Translation API. Wow, that's really cool. And that's an open source sample, which is available for you as well. And then Eric is going to do a quick intro. Well, let's see how much time we'll have. Eric is a professional, so he can adjust his presentation, right, Eric? But around the SharePoint Starter Kit, and there is a Microsoft Teams twist on that one as well. So we're going to talk about the SharePoint Starter Kit v2, kind of a quick introduction. We'll certainly do more videos on the Starter Kit v2, what it is, what's available, and all of that. So all good from that perspective. It is a really cool and to see a new version available on that one. But I'll let Eric to actually explain what's the latest in there and how it relates also on Microsoft Teams. But if it's built in SharePoint Framework, then it works in Microsoft Teams as well. So there we go. Anyway, so let's actually get moving on the other things. So quick recap, there is opportunities for you to participate on our special interest group in our community in general. In this particular community course, feel free to actually ping us on volunteering on doing the SPFx demos or doing PnP JS demos or anything related, to be honest, on this area within client-side development. We do have another community call happening on exactly the same time, but at the other Thursday, not this Thursday, the other Thursday, bi-weekly cycles and both community calls. The other one is then more for non-SPFx and client-side development topics. So let us know if you have something what you want to share with. Contributing GitHub, super important thing. We absolutely welcome your contributions in the GitHub, in the PnP organization, in SharePoint organization, in Office Dev organization, or wherever Microsoft organizations want to help us to build the open source community. Your input, your submissions, your issues, everything is absolutely welcome. Super important thing, provide us feedback using even the chat channel, for example, right now. If something isn't working, let us know. Don't be the person who just stays on the corner and keeps on nagging, but not actually telling what's wrong. Tell us what's wrong, so we're able to actually fix that. And then if you told us many times, and if you're like, yeah, you should know already, tell us one more time or 3 more times, and hopefully we can actually finally address that. The situation changes all the time, and the people who are running the things changes all the time in Microsoft, so don't be a stranger. That's what I'm trying to say in English, but with my Finglish. Anyway, need help on getting started on GitHub? AKMS Sharing is Caring is the initiative. We're going to talk about that one in a few slides as well. Quick recap on our assets. I've created a new one which we're using nowadays. So we have the Microsoft 365 developer videos. By the way, there's awesome set of build videos available in that YouTube channel. We have the Microsoft 365 SharePoint community videos where we have the SharePoint videos, the M365 special interest group videos, and a lot of MVP videos there as well, and open source videos. We have open source in 3 different organizations right now, sample galleries, and we have our AKMS M365 PnP welcome page. If you cannot remember all of these URLs, go to that one page. You'll get even the links to download all of the community calls across Microsoft 365 development from one single location. Super easy to get started. And it, by the way, is super cool looking site as well. So go and have a look on that and give us feedback. Now, quick recap on the Sharing is Caring. This is really great initiative run by David Warner and Hugo Bernier. And this is really around the fact that, okay, so people don't feel comfortable on starting contributing and doing submissions and pull requests and all of that in the GitHub. So what if it would help you? So it is really hands-on training with an instructor, in this case David or Hugo, typically helping you to actually get started within the GitHub by contributing. And there, the SPFx Samples community doc session launches in 2 weeks, so there's a new stuff available there. Am I missing something here, David, which you want to say, just in case?
No, it's perfect. Just there, if you're a first-time contributor interest, June 1st, we've got 2 times available. So check out the aka.ms Sharing is Caring, and we've got a new section. You can actually see a screenshot there for upcoming events. So we're going to be listing all of the sessions available in that section on the landing page. So you'll start seeing more showing up there as the SPFx Samples and Community Docs launch, and many others.
Excellent. Now, quick recap on other things. This is nothing to do with SharePoint Framework, but letting you know that always use Microsoft Graph API. It's the best thing out there. But if you need to hit an API, which is not yet in the Microsoft Graph, we are now releasing the .NET Standard version of CSOM. It's coming within weeks is the right way of saying that. It's not in days, not in months, within weeks. So we are right now fully committed on getting it live, getting it for you as a NuGet package by end of this quarter. And by end of this quarter means by end of June. And that means within a few weeks. So it's right now coming. I updated actually today even that user voice entry with an additional comment what's coming. So really, really cool to finally get this out. It's been way too long, and we do apologize on that, but better late than never. Now, quick updates on SharePoint Framework. We showed in build. I'm going to show a few slides from build as well. So SharePoint Framework right now we're growing 125% the growth rate. The usage is so high that this growth rate used to be more than 300%, but we are so off the roof on the usage already. It's pretty reasonable, or it's still super massive growth to grow 125% usage within 1 year. We've been having 40 major SPFx updates since GA, and we're going to have a 1.11 relatively soon as well, related on additional things on Microsoft Teams. We use SharePoint Framework, obviously in SharePoint, portals, experiences, and all of that, but you can build also custom tabs and personal application and task modules, which is something that I'm going to demo today in the Microsoft Teams site. Now, if you have an existing website, if you want to build a single page application and website and host it in Azure, then SPFx is not the solution for you in the Teams. If you are, however, if you have an existing LOB, you want to easily integrate to that one, or you want to surface your application in both SharePoint as a web part or in a Microsoft Teams as a personal application or custom tab, then SharePoint Framework could be the right choice actually for you. So this is not a competition. They're basically 2 different ways of doing extensibility with SharePoint Framework, or building a website and then surfacing that website actually on SharePoint as well. So there's 2 different options. Now, related on SharePoint Framework, we are releasing a new support for task modules. And this is basically when you click a task module, a starter task module. From here, you can see the icons. My mouse is pretty small there, I know. So these buttons in here, which I'm actually showing on the slides, if you click one of those, they can actually start a task module, which is then communicating with the bot. The key here would be that you can actually use SharePoint Framework for the UX layer. So this would be actually implemented using SharePoint Framework if you feel more comfortable with that implementation. The beauty of that one is obviously is that you don't have to worry about hosting that UX. You would have to still though host the bot, which is handling the communications behind of the scenes. So there's multiple dimensions on this. But using the SharePoint Framework can take care of the UX, and then we'll have still the Azure backend for the web APIs and bots and all of that stuff. And that's pretty neat setup, absolutely. Now I'm going to show this one in practice in a second. The second big announcement, which we did related on SharePoint Framework, again, I'm just concentrating on SharePoint Framework, not even the SharePoint related graph APIs. There was a lot of them announced, is that we will now open the store for SharePoint Framework solutions. So starting from July is now the plan. So we're pushing this heavily to get actually started and open. And then you are able to actually start adding SharePoint Framework solutions to the store. Now, I have to answer on AC's question, why would you prefer to use SPFx web parts on UX and test modules with adaptive cards? Well, there's multiple options. The reason why we're implementing this is based on ISV requests. So ISVs were asking that test module to be supported as a SPFx solution. And like I said, these are the 6 ISVs, which we are currently piloting our preview program for the store. And whenever this will open up, then as a partner, as a partner, you can go to our partner center and drag and drop your solution, their SPFx solution, and select will be available app source or in the Office store, and then it will be surfaced from there for SharePoint. And we do support also the automatic syncing for Microsoft Teams catalog for SPFx solutions. So pretty cool setup. We'll keep on evolving that one later as well. Now, I'm not going to concentrate on store, but I want to do a quick demo, and I do apologize, I'm rushing because I want to make sure that we have time for the really cool demos today as well. But what I'm going to do here quickly is that I'm going to actually start first my bot. So this is basically a bot framework implementation using the Yo Teams, which is working behind the scenes and then submitting back on the Microsoft Teams channel. Again, there's multiple ways of doing this and multiple ways of making things happen. So that's the backend, which is hosted in the Azure side. And I'm using the Yo Teams because, well, it's definitely awesome generator for implementing stuff. Now, the second thing that I have here, where is it? It's that one. It's my web part, and this web part implementation is already actually available in the SPDev Solutions repository in a GitHub. We'll add a link to the blog post which goes live related on the recording today. And the only downside right now is that the task modules are not yet supported, even in targeted release talents. So you cannot precisely do what I'm doing right now, but that support will be enabled relatively soon. But what we have here is a really cool solution, enterprise-grade solution, where we're using the same, let's say, implementation which we used in the past as well. We have the leads management system. The leads themselves can be coming from even from your on-premises system, where you could hit a web API which is hosted in Azure securely, and then expose the leads and you can work on them. We kind of enhanced the leads implementation slightly. So we even included here pretty cool Microsoft Graph integration, because it's all about using the best of the Microsoft 365 world, using the SharePoint, using the Teams, using Microsoft Graph, using the other areas as well, and bot framework as well. But in this case, this is a relatively simple thing. But again, I can do something like, hey, about that lead, I want a reminder on that lead on Monday to be created. And we're using Microsoft Graph behind the scenes. It's not yet using right now, to be honest, the To-Do API. It's going to use the To-Do API on Monday. So we're updating the code for that one. But what basically that happened in here is that if I go to my planner, I can see that it generated a task for me to review the lead DG 1000 on next Monday, on 25th of May. So pretty cool setup from that perspective. Now, we already have been having the support of having personal applications, and the leads application is a multi-tab personal application. So you can have SharePoint Framework implemented multi-tab applications, even with a bot, because, well, the bot itself is not about SharePoint Framework, that's bot framework, but obviously it can be part of the solution, and you can tie all of those in, and you could have a settings tab here where you can then configure what are the leads which are super interesting for you. Now, the new thing, which is going to be released in 1.11, is then the messaging extension or the task module, whatever they nowadays call that terminology. I'm not super familiar with the terminology and Teams. Well, kind of I am, but anyway. So the whole point here is that I can actually start functionalities, like I can do sync to Teams, and then we show a functionality based on that particular feature. You can also start a functionality. Teams, go away. There we go. We can start a functionality like leads in this case, and this is the task module, if that's the right terminology for this one. And then this is actually coming from as an implementation, but you can talk back on the Teams as well. So we can select here, for example, game controller 3300, and that's actually then, oh my God, I'm gonna actually fix that one in a second. I'm gonna go and update my NROC implementation. Forgot about that one. That's good, because now you have clear steps on how could I do that. So I'm going to go to my manifest. Sorry for this one. And no, you're not going to have control. And I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to save that one. There we go. So there's my NROC URL, so that our bot is working properly back to the channel where we are. So it takes a while to actually refresh that URL, but let's go to the sales channel. Let's try it one more time. I can do the task view. I can select the lead, and we want to talk about this lead with somebody in this channel. Scenario kind of makes sense. Let's talk about the game controller, so I can actually take that one. What happens behind of the scenes is that this is now then added as an adaptive card to the channel using the bot behind of the scenes. So now this way we can then start talking about that particular discussion on the lead, which came from the LOB system. So there we go, and we have pretty nice setup related on the enterprise level solution, where we use Microsoft Graph, we use the LOB Web API integration securely in Azure Function, we use adaptive cards, we use the bots and everything else as a kind of collective implementation. So that's actually pretty cool implementation. But that's, I know I'm rushing. And by the way, if people are interested on actually doing a end-to-end demo in these community calls around this solution, let us know in the chat. But for this particular call, I just wanted to impress you on what we can do actually as a SharePoint Framework solution, that we can do multi-tab personal application. We can do pretty cool stuff in here as well. And then we'll come back with a more additional guidance later on this one. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Any thumbs up on the chat? Nobody? No. I can see people are actually chatting before. Now, thank you, Xiao, on that one. Now, I'm going to actually not stop presenting. I'm going to go back on the slides because we have 2 more demos coming up, and quickly run through on my side and the recap on the project. So SharePoint Framework 1.11 coming soon, in quotes, which will enable then SharePoint Framework support in the store. And there will be Teams integration improvements. We'll do automatic changes in the automatic manifest generation, additional attributes, task modules are going to be there as well, and a few additional things. So really kind of the Teams, as you can see from the build as well, its Teams is really in the center of the universe for us as well in the Microsoft. Now, on additional topics, additional Teams integration, content security policy still in plans, definitely coming up on that one. Faster inner dev loop, we're targeting to get there. Let's see when we can get there. And more extensions for SharePoint portals. SharePoint portals, absolutely still 100% valid scenario. And pretty soon we'll have an official documentation also in SharePoint side, how to surface those SharePoint portals in an official way, what is supported, what is not supported inside of the Teams Chrome, because we keep on getting questions around that thing all the time. I think I can estimate by end of next week, we'll have that properly officially documented in our side as well. Now, quick recap on the PnP JS client side, super fast from here. Typically, Patrick would be doing these calls. Patrick is now on a family leave for a quick break, few weeks. few weeks, yeah, with they're having a second baby at home. The 2.16 is now scheduled for, is it 6th of May or 5th of June? This US way of actually defining the numbers. Sorry, Julie, if you're watching the recording, we need to actually use the right ways of doing that. But anyway, sorry for that, but we always need to use the larger date format because you never know which of those is actually the date and which is the month. Everybody knows this problem. Now, IO polyfills, there will be statements related on that one. There's a lot of activities and usage on these things. Getting started on the PnP V2 video series, David has 3 videos on that one. There's a great playlist actually available. And like I said, Patrick is back on family leave, so Julie, Andrew, and the team will handle things behind the scenes. Julie Turner, Andrew Kopolov from the both our MVPs, and then other people behind the scenes working on the PnP JS. So Andrew K, yes, indeed. So things are moving, but Patrick is right now taking well-deserved break from everything that's happening within this side. pnpgithub.com/pnpjs and m365pnpjs with Twitter. So there's a new Twitter account explicitly for PnPJS as well. Now, quick recap on the Office 365 CLI. The new release is the new preview version of 2.10, logging using managed identity, improved SPFx project upgrade, and the most widely used command in the CLI. It's super powerful. Install Teams personal applications using the commands, walk through, use your own AAD application with the CLI. I think Gary actually wrote this one, so great work on that. And new sample scripts and SPFx Doctor, super awesome command for you as well. So SPFx Doctor is really around the fact that you can validate your development environment, and it will tell you if the versions are not matching. If you're using a too new version or older version of Node.js, it will actually tell you that. So really cool implementation. Absolutely brilliant. Now, the SPFx reusable components, not that super much new, well, not a new releases within 2 weeks. We just had the 1.18 release 2 weeks ago, which has some new controls, and these are super widely used. So we were just watching the usage statistics pretty recently, and the growth is really nice to see. The more downloads on this and more activities all around. So, and they really increase the productivity of the developers. So super great stuff as well. Now, these are not competing with the Craft Toolkit. Craft Toolkit also exists, which is, by the way, a super great set of controls as well. Those are bounded to the Craft. These are basically talking directly using the SharePoint REST API for now. So there's a different way of communicating behind the scenes. And then PnP Generator, quickly in this one, the latest version came out this morning, 1.13. It has its own Twitter account as well. And the usage of this one also growing. The whole point of this one is that it decorates and improves the native out-of-the-box PnP Generator and makes your life again easier as a developer. So it will use the native out-of-the-box PnP Generator behind the scenes, but then it adds additional things like, well, pretty soon it's going to have Babylon.js support. What is Babylon.js? Well, that relates on SharePoint Spaces, which will hopefully then sooner or later supports extensibility model. And so there's an interesting themes planned in here as well. Now, a quick talk from Hugo related on PnP SPFx Samples. Hugo?
Thank you.
I think I saw you on a call, right?
Yes.
You are.
Okay, so we have one new SPFx extension, which allows you to add application insights. So Azure Application Insights for advanced things like page views and things like that. That's from Sudarsan. While he was in the AppInsights world, Sudarsan also created an SPFx web part sample, which demonstrates lots of really cool charts and graphs from your AppInsights dashboard. I upgraded the feedback form, which is an old sample that uses email and graph to send emails. There was originally a sample from Sergey from CollabStack. I actually used a new version of the Office 365 CLI SPFx upgrade, which hopefully you'll be seeing soon. One thing that I want to point out is when you submit samples, make sure that you have permission from your employer to submit these samples. Make sure that you only submit samples for code that you actually own. We want to make sure that everybody can benefit from the cool samples, and your employers obviously can benefit from you demoing these samples. But make sure you ask first. If you want to contribute, if you need samples and you want to ask the community to help you, there are new issue types called sample request. And if you want to contribute, we've been flagging issues in the issues list. One is called good first issue, which are the ones that we think, you might be able, if you haven't contributed before, but you want to take a look at contributing, anything that's flagged as good first issue is probably a good start. And anywhere where you feel a bit more adventurous, we have issues tagged as help wanted. Thank you everyone for contributing, and that's it from me, Vesa.
Thank you, Hugo. Just to pinpoint, the URLs are there, AKMS SPFx extensions for the SharePoint Framework extensions, and then AKMS SPFx web parts. So really, really, really cool stuff. And those are really nice sites where you can find the web part samples, which might be useful for you. So you don't have to start from scratch. You can always go to that site and have a look on where we are and what's there, maybe giving you a starting point, and then start from there or learn from the other people. That's really the key here as well. Now, finally, we're getting to the demo section. Well, I did one quick demo on that one. And by the way, on the quick demo, again, like mentioned, please let us know on the chat window if that's an interesting thing to really deep dive in one of these community calls. I intentionally kept it really quick and short. We will create videos and guidance and setup guidance on that one as well. But if we want to do more detailed demos in these videos, let's definitely do that. But let's go to the demo section. So Robin, let's actually start with you, and we can see your screen. Take it away.
Right, hello everybody. My name is Robin Achta and I'm an Office 365 and Azure developer at Delaware. I will be giving a short demo on the machine translation SPFx extension that I built, which basically lets you translate the content on your SharePoint pages. And it uses the Microsoft Translator Text API. Now, the goal of this web part is to let your end users translate your SharePoint pages, but it's not going to translate the entire UI or the entire web page, but only the actual text content on your page. So it's only going to look at the text control web parts and translate that. So let's dive right into the demo. So I have a basic SharePoint page in here with some content in English. There's also a people web part and the default comment section at the bottom. And when the page is loaded, you will see at the top that the translation bar is loaded in there, which is just basically a drop-down with available languages to which you can translate your content. The available languages in here are configurable in the extension, but I will get to that later. And when you select a new language, you will see the page gets blocked for a couple of minutes, and then the content on this page, in this case, is translated to French. And as you can see, the ribbon in here, for example, is still in English, so in the user's language, but all the actual text content is translated to French in this case. We also display a small disclaimer saying that it's translated by an API, and that maybe some of the translation may not be that accurate. And then lastly, we also have this button to reload the original, which is just going to reload the original page back into its original language. So that's basically how the extension works. Now let's see what's behind the scenes, or what's under the hood in the application customizer. So there are three main things that you can configure in this extension. The first one is the supported languages, which become available in that dropdown you saw a minute ago. If you go to the documentation of the Translator Text API, then there is this language support page, and you'll get a long list of all the available languages that are supported by the API. And it's this language code that we will need in our configuration to make the languages available. Then we also, of course, need the API key. So when you create a new Azure resource for the Translator Text API, you will get an API key, which you will need to make your calls to the API endpoint. And then there's also an option to specify a region for the API. So That's also documented in the API documentation. There are some base URLs. By default, it is going to the global endpoint, but you can specify a specific region to target the endpoint or the URL for your specific region. Other than that, we're not doing that much in this base customizer clause. We're just initializing a translation service, which we're going to get into in a couple of minutes, where we will be using the HTTP client of the SPFx framework. And we're also passing some page context properties like the page ID and the list ID to our translation bar. So if I go into this translation bar component, which is the one that's actually rendered on the page, there are two main things that we will be doing, or that we are doing in the initialization. So the first thing we need to do is, of course, detect the language of the page. We first go and fetch the page item using PnP.js, very simple, using the current list ID and the current page ID. We can get the list item of the page, and we get the title and the description. So if a description is available, then we use the page description to detect the language. If that's not yet available, then we'll be just using the title. So we have this method to detect the language, which is actually going to the translation service, where we have this method, which is calling the detect endpoint of the translator text API. Very easy to use. You can just pass in the source text in the body and then make a post to the detect endpoint, and you will get a result of detected languages. So the API will probably detect multiple languages, but the API will always give a score on how confident it is about the language that it's detected, and a flag saying if it's supported by the API. So if we detect the language with a score higher than 0.8, and that's translatable, then we use this language as the detected language. And next to that, in our initialization, we also have to get the available language or the available languages. And for that, we are using the available languages endpoint, this one, the languages endpoint, sorry, which is just a get method. And this one will list all the available languages supported by the API. And then we map this list of available languages to our configurable languages in the application customizer. And for each language, we then return the native name, which is provided by the API, and also the language code, which we can then use later on in our translation bar to actually do the translations. So once our translation bar is fully initialized, we can start our translation. Like I said, we are only translating actual text control on the SharePoint page. So again, we are using PnP.js to load the client-side page based on the relative page URL that we are constructing here. And once we have that, we have the page, the client-side page, let's say, we can use this find control method again from PnP.js and pass in this predicate where we're only going to return the controls of the type client-side text. So this will give us all our text controls on the SharePoint page, which we can then safely translate. We are also translating the page title, which is just the title that we're getting from the client-side page. So for each text control, we have this method to translate it. We are actually going to query the HTML DOM structure based on this data SPFeature instance ID, which always matches the ID of the web port on the page. So based on the text control web port ID, we can fetch the correct HTML element, and we can then start translating this HTML element. There are a couple of special things we do in here. If we look at the documentation of this translate endpoint, you will see somewhere in here that the entire text included in your request cannot exceed 5,000 characters. Now, this is very possible that this is happening. So that's the first thing we are checking, that the inner HTML of our text that we are trying to translate does not exceed those 5,000 characters. If this is not the case, we can just easily use the translate endpoint and pass in the inner HTML, the language code that we want to translate it to, and then also say that we are translating HTML. So the API supports plain text as well as HTML. So if you put in HTML, you'll get the correct HTML structure back, where all your CSS classes or inline styling is still on there. Now, if the inner HTML is bigger than those 5,000 characters, we are going to fetch all the child elements and going to translate them one by one. So we have this sort of recursive function here. So for each child element, we are again calling the same function and doing the same checks. So if it's still exceeding those 5,000 characters, then we are again putting it in the same function and so on until all the child elements are translated. Now, if the element is bigger than those 5,000 characters, but it doesn't have any child elements anymore, so let's say one big paragraph with more than 5,000 characters, then we will run into an issue. So we solve this using the break sentence API endpoint. And looking at the documentation for that one, so the break sentence endpoint for a specific array element, it can take up to 10,000 characters, which is already a lot more. And hitting one paragraph or one element with no child and more than 10,000 characters seems pretty unlikely. But if it still hits that, then of course we would have an issue. And this break sentence API endpoint will return to you an array with the lengths of each sentence that it has detected. So once we have all those lengths of all the sentences that were detected in the full text, we are going to subtract, or we are first going to calculate the start index and the end index of each sentence, and then fetch the substring of the full content of that HTML element. And then we can just pass in that specific sentence to the translate API endpoint and translate it as plain text instead of HTML. And then we are just replacing the sentence that we are translating with the result of the translation. So then everything on the page will be translated, and we can release the overlay and or the blocking overlay, and the entire page will be translated. So that's basically how this extension works. So thanks everybody for your attention.
Thanks. Before you actually close it, can you go one more time? Can you go one more time the functionality just to see that in practice, because the UX, because it's so cool.
So you just want to see the translation again?
Yeah.
So let's translate it to Dutch this time.
Because so just as a Microsoft employee, just noting here and saying that, well, obviously we should have this feature natively within a product. Because as an optional thing, and sure, you can translate the content using the multilingual model which we have in the modern pages, which is basically copy of the same page. But this is pretty cool. If you don't have time to do real translation for all of the pages, if you're a smaller company, this kind of a way of approaching the same problem is really, really great. So really nice implementation.
Yeah.
So
indeed, I can think it will bridge the gap when you don't have all the translations manually created yet. This can maybe be a solution.
Exactly. And having that warning there is really great. So I'm a Finn. So as an example, Finnish as a language is super complex. So therefore, you can always see if people have been using translation engines, but still you understand the text. So sure, it's not perfectly valid, but still. So good to have that text there indicating that it has been machine translated as well. So. Good. I think that's it in Robin. So really, really, really cool stuff. Absolutely brilliant demo. But I think that, Eric, I promised 20 minutes for you in our private discussions. It's now 19 minutes. Can you do it in 18 so I can close in 1 minute?
I'll do my best.
Take it away.
Excellent. Thank you all. Okay, so proud to announce we're finally getting here on a very long journey, and we're not yet done, but that's all good. The journey should never end. We're looking to release the version 2 of the SP Starter Kit. So I think that's super cool, super exciting. For those of you who are new to the Starter Kit or haven't seen it, don't worry, we're going to get to that as well. But it's an evolution of this tool that we really want to see developers be able to have to help see a end-to-end not only provisioning solution, but also to get to see some sample web parts all put together, some extensions, some all kinds of cool stuff, and see what it does. So this was released, what, 2-3 odd years ago, V1. It went through another minor iteration, and this is now the big one. And so another really big change. So we had some aims here on what we were looking to do. So one of the things is that the version 1 included one SharePoint Framework solution for all the web parts and the extensions. And there was a big ask from a lot of people, hey, we'd like to get just one web part. And Bill Cameron and some others split those out sort of in a sense outside of the project, or unofficially outside of the project, which helped you all. But we wanted that to be a first-party experience directly within the solution itself. So we wanted to split all that out. We wanted to be able to offer some sort of support for SharePoint 2019 as well as SharePoint Align. The star there on the 2019 is that the provisioning template aspect for 2019 is not yet ready, but the web parts that are available for 2019 could be used today, which is helpful. We also wanted to provide more demonstration around some of the new tools that have been coming out, such as integrating with the Graph API and using the Graph Toolkit directly in SharePoint Align. Of course, there's great demos already available for that, but we wanted to include that in this more of a packaged solution. We also wanted to include a SharePoint Framework library so that you could sort of see them together in a full deployed solution, as well as it then getting deployed. So what we've done so far is we have a library, a SharePoint Framework library. We have one of the web parts that's designed only for SharePoint Align, because Graph isn't a 2019 thing really. So there are some web parts that are not going to be available in the 2019 build, but are in the SharePoint Align build. So we've integrated one with the library that I'm really excited about how it was put together. That was Elio Struth's idea around language strings. Localization would be a library component. Some of you might have seen some blog posts that he's written on that. We're able to integrate that directly into the project. Also, as Vesa had mentioned at the beginning, to demonstrate the Teams tab development within SharePoint Framework. So the idea that you could then just build these web parts and then they could be available directly within Teams as well. And then also we wanted to demonstrate some of the new UX designs and layout capabilities that are available within SharePoint Online. And I put an asterisk there because it is working per se. We want to extend it. So the new starter kit is going to deploy a portal, it's going to deploy some team sites, etc., and it's going to deploy pages. And on the primary portal landing page, it is using the new layout structure that Microsoft has been recommending to us all, and putting web parts how it should be, but it's not as built out as we'd like to see it. The URL for this, we'll say this a couple times. I know there's a quicker one as well, but the one I always go to is just github.com/PnP, the SP Starter Kit. If you want to get started today, I am going to have a little piece in a little bit. If you're going to go there right now or while I'm talking, the master branch is still on V1 on purpose. I'm going to make this change probably today or tomorrow, where the master branch will be the V2. We'll talk about some of the limitations, but one of them is there's no direct upgrade path from V1 to V2 right now because of the way the solutions are built. If you install this over an existing installation, you're going to get 2 copies of all the web parts, and that's not normally ideal for most people. And we're not going to delete those automatically for you. So you'll just want to switch to the V2 branch when you go to GitHub. You'll see all the documentation there. You'll get all the code and all that really cool stuff. Before we continue, though, I really do want to say some big thanks to everyone who contributed here. The people that have really been helping me on the core is Bo Cameron. Big thanks there. Elio had some great ideas. Of course, you got to thank Paulo and Erwin. They were the fathers of the starter kit, and they gave us such a great foundation to work with. And then we had a whole bunch of other people who helped us with the translation of the web parts, the conversion of the web parts from the one solution to multiple. Some of them did this many months ago, and I appreciate your patience with all of us while we were able to get all the pieces together, but huge thank you. And I would love to see some of you all get your name added to this list, because there's plenty of room for us to extend this kit to be so much more than it currently is. Okay, so some general overviews. So the V2. First of all, right now you're going to need to go to that V2 branch, and you'll know you're on the right branch. The documentation right at the top is either going to say V2 or it's not. So that's kind of, we're going to keep that in place probably for many months, if not many quarters, because it is a pretty big, it's a pretty big change, and we know that there's going to be a lot of people who are using V1, and they're still going to be having questions, and we want to make sure they understand that this new code they're looking at is a V2 change. It is different, and we'll of course link back to the version 1 documentation, so that's not lost. We're looking to have, there are 16 SPFx web parts in this one solution. There's 5 extensions. There's the library. There's 3 PnP provisioning templates. There's going to be the default one for SharePoint Online. There's a one for 2019. And then there's also one that will just install the SPFx solutions. What's really important for us when we were building this was those provisioning templates are designed to absolutely be customizable by you. This is a developer's tool. I'm happy to see many people take the starter kit and throw it right in production. From my perspective, that's not really what the aim is. The aim is as a developer's tool to see it in place on a dev tenant, and then to quickly get under the hood and start making the changes and then pushing that out to your production tenants. That being said, I think the code is solid, and I think the solution is definitely the right way to go. So if it works in production for you, okay, good, yeah, happy for you. The provisioning template on SharePoint Online, you get a communication site just like V1, 2 team sites. That com site is going to be a hub site. The team sites are automatically associated with it. Of course, this is all done for you. You're going to see in my installation, it's effectively 2 commands, and you get all of this. There's a populated mega menu that will be deployed. You get a whole bunch of pages in that comp site. 15 pages are deployed for you. The full details of what this is going to provision for you, including some content types and lists and libraries, some other assets as well, is all found in the provisioning template, which I'm going to do my best to get to so you can at least see where it is. And again, that's designed to be reviewed by you, customized by you, and turned into your provisioning solution. So it's fully customizable. How you get started on all this? So it's a very similar process to V1. Of course, go to the GitHub page. For now, as I said, go to that V2 branch. You're going to connect to their site. I put in your Contoso demo SK URL. Of course, you want to change that. And from the project provisioning folder, you're going to run a apply PnP tenant template commandlet and sit back and wait. It takes about 10 minutes or so, at least on in my environments, it takes about that long. But that's it. Like, that's supposed to be how easy it is. It's worked for us consistently well, and I'm also very much looking for feedback from you. You still need to be a tenant admin to make all this work. There's a whole set of prerequisites that are found in the documentation. There's actually not that many, but there are some things that you'll need to do. As I said, there's no current upgrade path from V1. Don't really know how to get around this one. I'm definitely open for any kind of ideas besides just general documentation. And it's mainly because of the duplicate web parts. The web parts that we're installing, most of them really are just, they're migrated over from V1. They were upgraded to a more current version of SharePoint Framework, but they're split up to their own solution. So there's going to be the personal calendar web part. Well, now you'd have 2 of them if you had both V1 and V2, and we did go with new IDs because we basically had to, because we had to create new web parts. As well as, I keep talking about 2019, that provisioning process, as I said, is not yet finalized. So if you're looking to do this, install this on the 2019 today, it's not there. I'd love to give you an ETA on this. Don't have one. It's just, it's in the top of the backlog, but it's still in the backlog. So let's go ahead and let's look at it. You can see right now what that is going to be looking like. But what I really care about is what is it going to look like as part of our what's it going to look like live. Let's look at code and let's look at the design. So first of all, the project itself, I told you. So you're going to go to the project. For now, if you just go to the V2 branch, you'll get all the documentation about the V2 starter kit. And please do read through this, doing everything I can to provide more documentation, because I think that as a developer tool, that's where this is going to help, so that you understand what's there and really try to accelerate the whole solution. All right, so let me go ahead and get, we'll go ahead and install this. So first of all, of course, we're going to connect. And then after we connect, we're going to run a simple commandlet. Now, this commandlet would take the rest of the time that I have. So instead of actually waiting for it, I'm going to go ahead and show you what it actually looks like. But it really is this easy. All right, so Let's go ahead and go back to the starter kit itself. What's going to happen as soon as that's installed, you're going to get a nice portal that's going to be created for you. A whole bunch of web parts are automatically added to you. Everything you see here, this is a default installation. I have not done anything to this besides just loaded the page after it got installed. So a lot of content is added for you. A lot of web parts are put in place. Some of these are first-party web parts. Some of these are the custom web parts included as part of the page. So I think some really super cool stuff there. If you go to the site pages, you'll see that a whole bunch of pages are created for you. One of my favorite ones that I think is kind of cool is the personal page. This would be sort of your personal page that you create for people where they can get a whole bunch of stuff on what they're doing, sites that they're following, the tasks and email and whatnot. You can see that this is a demo tenant, so it's not overly populated with content. But these are all the web parts that are included as part of the solution that tie into Graph and help get you lots of extra data. If we go to the app catalog, what you're going to see is all of the web parts that have been installed. And so now, again, we went with that single solution per web part, which I personally am a big fan of this in general. I think this is the right way to be building solutions. I know when I first started, I used to put multiple web parts in a given solution. And I think for ALM, I just found that splitting them out seems to make a lot more sense. You can see there's a whole bunch of solutions that are created. And again, all of this is automated. I've ran 2 commands and I got all of this cool stuff. So let's just quickly check back. Yep, so it's still going on. So let's go ahead and let's look at some of the code so that you can get some accelerators here. If you've worked with the starter kit before or you looked at the code should look very, very familiar. The main thing we added was the source folder. If we look into the source folder, you're going to see all of the breakdown of all of the web parts, the extensions, etc., as well as you're going to get down here at the templates. And this is where the magic happens, is down in the templates. So you've got the templates, there's starterkit.xml. You can see we've got the shells for the other 2, but the starterkit.xml is the PnP provisioning template that does all of the magic. And I've started to add some commenting to it. I think it makes it a little easier to read, especially for people coming to this the first time. But you can see how we're able to deploy all of the solutions. We add so much more: site design, site scripts. There's a whole sequence multiple sequences that we have. If you're looking for a larger demo of how the provisioning engine works, the PnP provisioning engine works, to me, this is a great place to look at, because not only in 10 minutes or so will you get a full provisioned solution, but you can then see how the provisioning template is built. Okay, so there's a couple thousand lines of code there, so I don't have time to go through it all. The other component I wanted to look at was the provisioning folder. So within the provisioning folder, you've got the compiled starterkit.pnp files. These are the actual PnP provisioning files. And what happens is, or what you can do is, you can use the read PnP template commandlet. That is going to allow you to read those XML files. And then all you do is you save a PnP commandlet. That will allow you to take the XML files that are found down in the source/templates and create your own .pnp files. And then you can just do a simple installation, a reinstallation of the starter kit. This piece has not been documented. This is one of the top documentation pieces that I know that's left, because to me, this is one of the next big steps you're going to want to do, is build your own provisioning template based upon the examples that are here. And although it's only 2 commandlets, it's very well documented in general how to take a PnP XML template and turn it into a .pnp file, and then run the apply PnP template commandlet. I really want to make sure that is spelled out for you, so I can hopefully try to save you, that extra 30, 60 minutes of thinking, what am I supposed to do? We just want to make it super seamless and easy for you to be able to do that. Okay, so I want to ensure I can spend a lot of time going through this. I'm sure you see there's a lot of really fun, cool stuff here. The other one I thought was really cool was the library. This one I do want to document with Elio. I think it's interesting to see how this was all put together, where we basically created localization, string localization within the library, and then within a web part. In particular, the web part that we activated here was the following sites. What we're doing is we're utilizing that library And from that library, we can then import the localization directly. So what you'll see is that this particular web part does not actually have, there's no localization folder because it's grabbing that from the library. A great way to have all of your web parts utilize a library for all of its localization. Okay, so let's go ahead and quickly wrap up because we only have so much time left. The last thing I want to do is how you can help. So please, this is basically what we're looking at as a beta release. So install the solution in a dev tenant and provide feedback. I would love to have more people working with this, playing with this, finding bugs, finding issues, helping us find gaps in documentation. What are you looking to do that doesn't currently work? What is it that you're looking to do you don't understand? Please use the issues list within the project. Bo Cameron updated the template, the issues template, to try to help steer you in the right spot to help you get the content to us so that we can help you address these. Also, though, hey, we're looking for PRs. If you find a bug, please make a PR for it. Pull the latest code, put it on the dev branch, just like you normally would. We'd love to get that merged as soon as possible. If you find gaps in documentation, solve them, please. If you find something cool, let us know. Create an issue and say, hey, I solved it. Could someone go and create a documentation on it? Anything you could do to help share, I would be greatly appreciated. But also as well, promote this on social channels. Let people know this is out there. Let people know your experiences, ideally if they're good, of course. We're also definitely looking for videos, blog posts, recommendations, insights, etc. I want to see a lot of videos on using this because I think this is a great accelerator tool. That being said, I don't want to do all those videos, particularly because this is not about me. This is obviously about all of us, for everybody to help you, everybody. So please, we would love to have you be a part of this as well. So with that, Vesa, I'll give you the last minute back and to wrap it up.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric, for that one. Really great work, Robin, also on his demo, and really cool to do a quick recap on the starter kits and what's happening on that side as well. I'm going to actually quickly just for a few minutes or 1 minute to close up the call and say few things. So first of all, just to recap, thank you, Robin, thank you, Eric. The recording will be available in 24 hours in our Microsoft 365 SharePoint community YouTube channel, so again as M365 PnP videos. If you do not remember that, there's so many URLs, AKMS M365 PnP is the one URL to remember. From there, you can actually see then links to every other location as well. And follow us on Twitter, Microsoft 365 and DevTag, and there's the M365 PnP Twitter account as well. There's multiple other accounts as well based on the projects. And next SPFx call will be on June 4th, and next M365 General Dev call is on May 28th. So a week from now, again, 7 a.m. Thursday Pacific time, always a related calls where we talk about different things. Now, we have quite a few different community calls. We're looking into potentially consolidating some of these, maybe starting from July, and there's an ongoing discussions on that one. To be fair, at the same time, one of the key feedback we've been getting from the surveys is that no, it's fine that there are multiple calls. We'll choose which are the ones which we will choose and join, and then we'll get the other ones in the recording. So that seems to be more the theme and the message what we're getting from you as a community, but always interested on the fact that is there too many things, is there too much things, and what's the feeling on that. At the same time, at least in our side, we have community call demos already booked. We're booking already July and August timeframe. So there's a lot of demand for the community call demos as well. Now, and one more thing, we didn't have a time for Q&A. If you join on this calls 10 to 15 minutes to the call, I'll try to be early if there's any random questions or random topics and in the upcoming calls as well. But that's it for now. Thank you, everybody. Go and watch those build recordings, or there might be some few live sessions. I think we're closed on build, or there might be some sessions still ongoing, but have a look on what's happening there. There's an awesome set of a playlist in the Microsoft 365 YouTube channel, Dev YouTube channel, around what's latest on SharePoint, what's latest on Teams, what's latest on Craft, what's latest on adaptive cards and all of that stuff. So super cool stuff. And we'll be back within these community calls within a week. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. Let's stay in touch. Bye-bye.